Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Hey, you were telling me some information about RA that you were discussing with someone this week. Well, what do we got there?
I was actually discussing it with you. By the way, nice of you to freshen up your T-shirt look there, by the way. Give me a hard time
You do
for
it
a
all
T-shirt.
the time. I'm sure everyone will forgive me. I happen to be in a T-shirt today. But it's, it's a T-shirt for yarn. So
Oh, I see. So that makes it okay.
I'm calling that okay.
Well, I can tell you, I listened to a podcast, several podcasts actually, from Silent Sales Machine Radio. And one of them was from a person named Vernon. I'll see if we can get the actual podcast number in the show notes. He told a super inspiring story, and he's going to break $1 million this year. And it's him and his wife and his in-laws. Okay. And they're going to break $1 million in revenue this year.
That's exciting. What are they doing to get that?
What do you mean, what are they doing to get that?
What kind of strategies are they using?
Oh. Yes, that is sort of the key to the whole episode today, right? He and his wife practice the retail arbitrage strategy. Retail arbitrage, RA. If you're new to this space, you'll hear RA and OA and wholesale and private label and brand management and all the different options that are out there, right?
So RA, retail arbitrage, it's had a few iterations in this space in the past, but we're really talking about going actually physically to the store to purchase the product.
And I think that right there, what you just said, is what gives RA a bad rap.
Yeah.
Right? People think, I have to go to the store and stand in the aisle and scan products for hours and hours and hours. And
that's not true.
It's not true at all.
You can go to the store and purchase product that you've already got on a list that this is what we do. We have shoppers. We give them a list and say, go to the store, pick this up and send it in for us. And that makes it much, much easier. We're not sourcing in the store. We're shopping in the store.
That's right.
Two different things.
Now, there are times when we are in there shopping and we see a product that we didn't see online and we go, let's check this out.
Right.
We used to talk about, we would go into a store and, in fact, about 6 months into this journey, when we first got I'm going to say, interviewing our first shopper-shipper person.
Yes.
But we were in the store called Jungle Gyms, and it was me and you and your brother and his wife and their daughter and her husband. And we had a little contest. We were in the store if you can find an item that looks like this and shows this amount of profit, I'll give you $20.
Oh, we had so much fun.
It was a blast, so much fun. I spent a lot of money on it.
But that was not our that was not our sourcing session.
Right, that was not
normally
sourcing.
We wouldn't do that, and we never. So that was my niece who was going to be a shopper shipper for us.
Yeah,
and we were showing her this and having some fun, but we did not ever ask her to go find the items. We gave her a shopping list.
That's right. And so, how did we find the items?
We source them online first.
From home.
Yes. So that we could make a list. Now, with that particular store, I don't think you can shop online. So I don't think we did that store.
You're right. There are some stores that just don't have a great online presence with their products and pricing. And so sometimes you might need to go in there. Jungle Gyms is a great example of that, in my opinion, where at least the last time I checked online, that you didn't get a sense of really everything that was in the store.
Right.
So you needed to go in. Now, what you can do, and the other thing that we did while we were there, is we took pictures of all the aisles. Things.
That's another way to source, is take pictures of the aisles and then go home where you have all your tools.
That's right. Because let's face it, we need more screen real estate than what we can fit on a phone. Usually.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. Now, some people are they're just tight with the phone. They can do that in the store, and that's great. And if you can do that, that's great. We're just saying that to do retail arbitrage or shop in the store, you don't have to do your sourcing there.
I think just that little conversation we just had about going to the store, being in the store, potentially even taking pictures, buying your product, taking it home, feels like a manual process, right?
Right.
A lot of people think, well, RA is manual and I want to do OA because it's automatic. Because why?
It seems automatic, but it's not. It's not automatic.
Well, because
I don't know.
They've heard so many people say, I never touch product. I buy, thousands. I spend thousands. Yes. I buy thousands. I use a prep center. I mean,
and that does happen.
The
Absolutely.
OA Simplified story, basically, right? The OA Simplified course that is in the Proven Amazon course, it can absolutely work. One potential nuance that I think I'd like to add to that is that works really well for experienced sellers.
Yes.
Right? And it can work okay if you're just getting started, but you've got some hurdles to overcome there.
Right. If you want to start a couple of steps in, then you're going to have to overcome those hurdles still at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're not saying OA or online arbitrage is a bad thing. We're just saying there's a whole lot for retail arbitrage that maybe you haven't thought of.
And the whole reason this conversation came up after I was telling you about the podcast last week is that there are so many opportunities in the RA space because nobody wants to do it.
Right.
Okay. Nobody wants to go to the store. Nobody wants to buy their product. Nobody wants to take it home and prep it. And nobody's a broad generalization. Obviously, there are people doing it, for example.
Many sellers are avoiding this.
Yeah.
So there may be some gaps there,
yeah.
some golden gaps that you haven't, that you could discover.
I'd say there's a ton of influencers out there too, who are, cutting video from their office where they're like, I never touch product.
Yeah.
I buy, all the stuff, and all I do is check my Amazon app to see how things go. And they leave out a lot of what is actually happening.
What there is to do to set that up.
Yeah. And so personally, as a coach, when I'm working with someone new, if they are willing to go do a couple of months of RA, you will see that sort of learning curve of the whole Amazon feed the beasts that rhythm that you need. You can get that done, I believe, much faster with RA than with OA.
I agree. So there are a couple of things involved there. Number one, you have to make a relationship with a prep center if you're going to send the inventory to the prep center to send in on your behalf. If you do it like we do, we use shopper shippers, and they're different parts of the country. We have to set them up. We have to get them materials and teach them how to send in on our behalf.
Yeah.
So there's some setup to be done there. So if your first couple of shipments, if it's possible, I understand people who don't live in the U.S., it's not possible for them, but if it's possible for you to do a shipment or two at least before you send to a prep center or a shopper shipper, then you're going to be able to understand a whole lot more about that process. And when you need that relationship to work between you and your prep center, you'll have a clear understanding about what they're talking about, what their issues are, and how you can solve those issues together.
Let's about why. Sorry, that came out. Let's talk about why RA can actually work and work in your favor, right?
Okay.
One of the things I like about RA is you getting the product is virtually immediate, right?
Yes.
I mean, it takes you the time to drive to the store and walk to the aisle that you need to pick up the product. But once you're there, you actually pick it up, put it in your hands.
Yes.
Who here has ever ordered something online, had it delivered, and when you got it, you realized it's not the same product?
Oh, yes. Happens all the time.
Right? Or it's broken because they put it... We used to buy this coffee online, and they would like put 4 canisters of coffee in there with a couple of those bubbles, right? The inflatable bubbles, and the coffee would get all knocked around. The lids come off. The things get dented and everything. And then there's this crappy,
and then I can't sell it.
Looking piece of product, right? And then I can't sell that either. And so I can check the expiration date.
Right.
I can check product condition. I can see exactly how many are on the shelf and buy what I want.
Yes. What is the little code that they're putting on some of the products now?
Oh, the
T. Transparency code needs to be on that product. I can pick it up from the shelf and see that is there.
Yes. Though if people are doing transparency codes the correct way, no matter where you buy the product, it has a transparency code.
Yes.
So
be careful of that old stock that's been sitting out in the back for a long time.
Old stock? I mean, who has old stock?
Yeah.
Target doesn't ever have
I was surprised. One of the biggest things that surprises me about this business, and there was quite a bit in the beginning, but after I got past the fact that you could actually resell items on Amazon and that you could turn these over in, 60, 90 days and make a profit. Once I got over some of those things, then I went to shop for inventory at the store. And the next big shocker was how much inventory is on the shelf that is expired, like a year or more. I was surprised and shocked. These things you have to watch. You got to watch for them.
So there's a story here. I know we've told it in the past, but I just want to revisit it for a second here, where we signed up for, I think it was Kehi.
Oh, yeah.
And we were basically stocking shelves for this distributor called Kehi. And Kehi carries all these different brands. Like
we
tons
went through
and tons
this
of different
period
brands.
where we were doing gig jobs because we wanted to show that you could make $1,000 if you needed to.
Not only that, I wanted to break into relationships with those distributors, right? Which eventually happened. But the interesting thing about Kehi was you would go into a retail store like Walmart or Target, and they would tell you, like your instructions on the app would say, stock the chips and the cookies and the whatever. And so you'd go into the back stock room and you'd have visibility to, to wear your little name badge. Although you'd be surprised at how many people don't even care.
People just walking around.
Yeah. And
since then, I've done it. I've done it at Walmart, and nobody stopped me.
Yeah.
I was just going back there to see if there's more stock.
And not only is the stock on the shelf bad, but the stock in the back room is bad. And
it's expired.
And so
it's broken, crushed.
Goes to show you two things. One, the people that Kehi were hiring at the time obviously weren't doing their job very well.
I'm not sure if that company still exists.
They do. They do still exist, yeah. And this was just post-COVID, so it was kind of a strange time, I'll say that. But then also, the store doesn't do the right inventory rotation either.
Right.
So the stuff that is not managed by a subcontractor, they don't do a great job of rotating their inventory either.
No, they really don't. I mean, it's our responsibility as resellers to check these things. And Amazon holds us responsible.
And one of the things that we hear a lot from, I'm going to say, sort of snooty sellers. Oh, I don't do grocery because I don't want to have to deal with expiration dates. Because usually they got burned on something where they bought it online, then it got shipped to their home, and they're like, shoot, I can't sell this.
I know people who are not snooty who say those same things.
I know. But here's the deal. You can eliminate that problem with RA.
Right. So keep in mind that we do a combination of RA and OA in our business. But we never go to the store.
So sometimes we go to the store.
Well, but not as part of our practice. We don't go to the store to pick up inventory. We have shopper shippers do that. You don't have to do it yourself.
Right, I see where you're going with that.
I don't know that there may be a prep center that would do that.
There
are there some starting to do that? Yeah, ask them.
One of them at the Proven Conference this year who said, we will do RA for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So if that's the case, then take advantage of that. Otherwise, you can certainly hire somebody to go and do those pickups for you.
Now, why would this be beneficial, Robin? One of the things, the early sort of secrets that we honed in on when we were first starting out was the magic of the regional stores.
Yes.
Okay. The regional stores.
Within the same city.
Well, no.
You're talking about stores that are not in.
Yeah. So like Meijer.
Sorry, I
Meijer's
on the wrong thing.
In the Midwest, HEB's in South Texas, Publix
Those regional
is in
stores, gotcha.
Southeast, right? Yeah. Ralph's is out west. There are a lot of stores that, depending on where you live, you may not have access to. So like if you live in, if you live outside of South Texas, as great of a deal as you can find at HEB, you'll never get it.
Not unless you drive to Texas.
Or you hire someone who lives in that area.
Yes.
Right? Meijer, like we don't have Meijer here in Colorado anymore, but we can hire someone who lives in the Midwest who can tackle that store for us.
Did we ever have Meijer?
Yeah.
We did. I don't remember ever having Meijer in Colorado.
No, not in Colorado.
Oh, you said we don't. You said we don't have Meijer here in Colorado anymore.
We don't have Meijer here in Colorado. But
anymore,
Meijer's.
You said.
Oh, I didn't mean any. Okay. Anymore.
We digress.
This might be a long podcast.
It could be. Or it might be an edited podcast.
Anyway, so you can outsource that stuff. And this is one of the reasons that, tools like Boxed or Boxem and Inventory Lab and there are a number of them out there, can be useful for you. You can train your contractors who live in other parts of the country to use that solution to get your inventory into Amazon. And they'll know how to load up the inventory that they got.
Lots of the prep centers use those sorts of things.
Yeah. Anyway, great opportunities for outsourcing there too. But the other thing I was talking about, if I could get, as a coach, if I could get a newer person to do the RA for a couple months, it really helps you build confidence in what it is that you're doing. And so then you actually kind of know, it helps you, I think, when you start integrating some OA, to what to expect, right? Yeah. What do I expect when it comes to the types of products that I'm going to receive? And so this can help you get over that sort of analysis paralysis, and then you apply what you've learned to the OA model.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I really like the idea. Where I started to go when I got the miscue there was different of the same store can also have regional differences, even in the same city. I know that when I used to do the Denver circuit, I would do Walmarts and Targets and Walgreens and whatever stores I was shopping at, Home Depots. And different stores, Walgreens and Targets, different stores in different areas of the city have completely different inventory, completely different prices.
Not completely, but...
the whole store is not different,
right,
but their mix is very different. They have inventory that the other ones don't have. They have different prices on the same items. Oh, and when you're using different shopper shippers like we do in different parts of the country, they can take advantage of the different pricing. Amazon's not the only one who has different pricing in different in different parts of the country.
Yep.
Walmart, Target, all of these retail stores also have different prices.
Well, this is more reasons why I'm a big fan of retail arbitrage. All the things we've been talking about is we've used the dartboard analogy before, where you're just trying to get a dart on the dartboard.
When you're first starting
out, and a lot of times people are trying to teach you strategies for how to hit a bullseye all the time. And with RA, you don't necessarily need to hit a bullseye. You just need to hit the board, right? It gives you a lot more real estate to be able to leverage, as opposed to a very small section of the board
that you're likely not going to hit in your first few tries.
Yeah. So I wanted to just call out what gets easier with retail arbitrage versus online or wholesale or private label.
Yeah.
A few items here that will help illustrate that point, I think.
Okay.
So you don't have to buy things by the case. There's no case pack issues.
No minimum orders.
No minimum orders. You can actually buy it in the store, list it, even before you check out, if you're going to do FBM, and potentially sell it before you get to the car.
Yep.
Right. This is something that you'll experience a lot more frequently in Q4.
Yes.
But if you have found the right underserved ASIN, which sneak peek is going to be our next topic, then you could do that when even it's not Q4, right?
Right. So the prepping, shipping cycles are faster because you're taking it home. You can prep it right then. You don't order it and then wait a week for it to come in and then prep it and ship it out. Yeah.
So this actually shortens the cycle for you and helps you get momentum earlier, faster than a lot of OA approaches.
So you say it might lower your risk when testing products. How does that work?
Well, it lowers my risk when I don't have the wrong product shipped to me. I didn't get out-of-date product shipped to me. Also, if I want to, maybe list it merchant fulfilled without having to go through the whole prep and ship it to FBA and pay inbound and storage and all that, I could do that.
Right. Okay.
Good?
Yeah, I like it. All right. So you mentioned we were going to move into a different topic. What's that?
Well, what sort of came from this conversation when we were talking about the advantages of RA is that when you go into a store and you see you're shopping for a product and it is out of stock, and you go and check Amazon for that product, not always, but sometimes you'll see a correlation there. Right? And when you see a lot of products that are out of stock on a shelf, then you look this up, you might be on to something called an underserved ASIN. But this question actually comes from your Kickstart group more than anything else.
Right. They hear the term, and Jim says it a lot, What's an underserved ASIN? So there's some the varying definitions to that, but I think we can describe it as an ASIN that is the Amazon listing shelf is not full enough to satisfy all the customers looking for that product.
So there's, I would say, consistent demand, but inconsistent supply.
Yes. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So, or, like if we were in Costco looking for the samples, the free food samples, and there weren't any there, we'd be like, hey, where's our free samples?
Is that how you look at it?
Yeah.
So what I find is a lot of times this is because it's selling faster than the third-party sellers and or Amazon can keep it in stock. This we know because we see that a lot of times they'll suspend the buy box because there's no seller who has it available within 48 hours. So this happens because a lot of those faster moving items, Amazon puts them up for sale right away as soon as you drop them off at UPS. Then Amazon shows the customer, oh, it'll be available in 10 days or something. If you can wait out that time until you become available within 48 hours and wait for it to get all the way to Amazon, and nobody else is doing that, they're running down on their price because they think price is the issue when really time is the issue. And you can wait. You can often get the buy box back on your price and command a higher price than what the other sellers are selling because they're selling too soon. They're trying to sell it too soon.
Yeah, so let's just be clear. The listing is not suspended. The buy box becomes suppressed.
The buy box becomes suppressed. Yes, I didn't say that very well.
There are multiple reasons that the buy box can be suppressed. The two most popular that we come across, the number one most popular is price. Amazon will suppress a buy box because they think that the price is too high. And the second most popular is delivery availability. Right. So if it's not available for 3 weeks, Amazon, they learned a lesson here. Okay.
I think so.
They've learned it because I was one of those people that didn't realize there was a delay. It just looked like I could just buy it now. And when it says buy it now, I'm assuming.
And I have Prime and I'm paid for that.
That means I'm going to get it in 2 days. And so when I didn't get something for 2 weeks, I was calling it and I was sending emails to Amazon saying, hey, what gives? Like, you said this was Prime and it's not Prime and I want my money back, right?
And that's been a couple of years now. I think most people are pretty aware of that now. It does happen, but I haven't seen it happen in a long, long time that anybody complained about that because it's very clear. And this is one of the reasons they suppress that buy box while that's happening. So customers know they're not going to get it in 48 hours.
That's right. Why do these listings matter? Like, why do we care about these underserved listings? I think
we want to find those so that we can fill the shelves. I
was going to mention, this came up in our sort of pre-talk about this particular episode. One of the spot-on ways to know if it's an underserved ASIN is if it's in the in-stock Head Start program. Is that right? In-stock Head Start? Yeah, in-stock Head Start program. And I said to you, wouldn't it be nice if Amazon gave us a list of all the products that are in the in-stock Head Start program? Because then you would know. Like the only reason they're offering it up the day that the UPS takes control of that box is because they don't have any other inventory.
Yeah.
Right? But that changes all the time. The mix of inventory is constantly changing. Right. So if they could give you a list today, it would be different by tonight.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So this is why testing is so important.
But when you see those ASINs that have, they have whatever price, but nothing is available within 48 hours, test that product because that might be some gold that nobody else is looking for. Right?
Well, yep. And key thing of an underserved ASIN is when you are selling above the buy box or when the buy box comes up to meet you.
Yes.
Right? When either of those two things happen, that's your sign that this is an underserved ASIN.
And again, we have to test it to find that out.
We do have to test it. Yep.
Right. But that's a very good point. If that's the case, then it's probably an underserved ASIN.
You also have to realize that you're solving a real pain point for an Amazon shopper here. This is what Jim talks about all the time. It's my kid's birthday tomorrow.
Yes.
And I can't find what I'm looking for anywhere else, but you as the seller happen to have it available in the market that they live and they can get it same day, next day. They don't care how much it costs.
Right. Rarely does that even, because Amazon has done a really good job, whether they meant to or not, of making a customer who is way more time sensitive than price sensitive.
Yep. There's also usually less competition on these listings because so many fewer people can actually get the product.
Right. And that's where you started to touch this when it was RA. What if the shelf is empty?
Exactly.
Or there are only 3 or 4 on there? So everybody's out and I can get 3 or 4, but I could sell 500. Why would I only get 3 or 4? How do I manage that situation?
I say price accordingly.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, if you could sell 100, but you can only get 6, then put your price point where it makes it worth it to you to go get the 6.
Yes. And make the price point, if that's the case, price it so it'll slow down enough where you can regularly get stock, get those 3 or 4 every week, get those 3 or 4 priced at where you want them at. So that makes up for the difference in volume.
We talk about the amount of work that goes into a volume-based business versus a high margin-based business. If you could buy 100, you'd have to prep 100, ship 100, pay for storage on 100,
possibly
all that
get
stuff
stuck with 100
for a skinny margin. Or buy 6 and do all the same thing with 6 for a big fat margin, right?
Okay.
That's where we want to be, is with those. That's where I want to be.
Well, less work, bigger margins.
And there are, there's a balancing act here. You're not not all of your ASINs are going to be these big fat margin above the buy box selling 6 a month, right? You're going to have a mix. Yeah.
Right. All right. So there's another side to this. What is the other side of when underserved ASINs? What else we got?
So I love this conversation because, everyone always wants to know what is an underserved ASIN. So a lot of times, the best way to know is to experience it. So test it, right?
But then what are we staying away from? What's not an underserved ASIN maybe is
I was going to say a couple of other characteristics about an underserved ASIN is you see that buy box if there is one moving around a lot, right? You see sellers coming and going, like sometimes the listing will even be out of stock for a day or 2 or a week because there is no inventory. That is a classic underserved ASIN to me. I don't mean that you need to go inspect all 247 data points in Keepa or however many that there are. That's not what we're talking about here. But the flip side of that is what we would normally say, like in the old days, if we were happy to sell at the buy box, is we're looking for a nice, consistent buy box, right? That buy box hardly ever moves. Let me ask you a question. Oh, hold on. Let me go a little bit further.
Okay.
The other thing that happens here on the other side of the coin is not only does the buy box not move that much, not always, but you can see where the buy box doesn't move that much. Also, the sales rank drops are not that high.
Right.
And this actually is a question that I got from someone in the Facebook group who said, "Hey, Brian, I found this awesome looking listing. It sells like 10,000 units a month, but the buy box is consistently below my break even. But I think since it sells so much that I can get more for it."
Okay, first of all, we don't know how much it sells. We know how much it's been priced
in
for.
In this case, we did know well, Amazon told us sold in the last.
Sold in the last. Okay, sorry. I keep forgetting that's available now in some listings.
Yeah, so we did have an indicator from Amazon that it sold over 5,000 units a month. So yes, it was selling a lot, right? But in order for an ASIN to sell a lot, to sell 5,000, 10,000, or more than 10,000 units a month, what has to be true, Robin?
The inventory has to be there.
The inventory has to be there.
You cannot sell inventory that doesn't exist.
Amazon can't. You're exactly right. Amazon can't sell if they don't have it.
Right.
So what this means...
Or if it's not on its way. We know sometimes they sell it if it's on its way.
What this means to me is, in order for an item to sell that much, that the distribution network is typically saturated. And I don't mean saturated in a bad way. I mean saturated in a good way if you're a customer for
There's lots of inventory.
Yeah, there's a lot of inventory.
You can buy that anywhere.
In other words, if I were a private label seller, or if I was the wholesale supplier for, pure cane sugar or whatever it was, and I had virtually unlimited inventory available to me, I would stuff Amazon's warehouses full of that product so I would never run out.
Right.
And so remember the whole, going back more than a few episodes, but we talk about the amount of warehouses that Amazon has from the old days where it was, scores to today where it's hundreds. Okay. to saturate the distribution network with hundreds of warehouses
I see.
is different today than it was 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Right.
You have to get a lot more inventory in there.
And as FBA resellers on a replens business, that's not what we're looking to do.
Exactly, right. We're inch deep, mile wide.
Right.
We're
looking to put
mile deep,
a little
wide.
bit of inventory in wherever that happens to go. Amazon knows where they need it most. And keep supplying that regularly. If we go with these spikes and jumps, and then we don't have a predictable inventory. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't go with a buy box or a historical pricing that's moving a lot. I like those because that tells me, you explained it a little while ago, that tells me that some sellers are running out of stock and then somebody else gets their price in the buy box and then they run out of stock and somebody else gets in it. And those are all different prices and they're all hitting on those historical prices because it's a volatile history, price history, and I like it.
The flip side of that is what we're talking about now, which is these listings that have a ton of inventory available in them, and you virtually see that the buy box hardly ever moves.
Right.
If it moves, it goes down by a penny or 2 pennies because some offer in there, and they're like, I need to move through some of my inventory now. It's my turn, so I'm going to lower my price, right? Versus the other side of it is, it's my inventory now. It's my turn now. I'm going to raise my price.
Yes.
It's a completely different strategy, right?
Yes.
And on these listings that are saturated with offers and inventory, these are the more popular listings on Amazon frequently.
Yes.
Okay. You will see that the price, the buy box will often come down and settle at a very low price, and it stays so steady, right? And so certainly not saying
so not a lot of sales rank drops there.
Oh, also, yeah, it's a great point. Not a lot of sales rank drops. So when you hear the conversation of if you're only focusing on 30 or more, we're talking about these underserved listings. If you're focusing on, the ones that have 5 or 10 or 15, and you can still sell hundreds of units, the only way you would know is by buying hundreds of units, which as a new seller, we certainly don't recommend that. But
again, difference between a new seller building their foundation and an experienced seller, obviously very, very different way to look at it.
If the bestseller rank of that item doesn't change because it's consistently selling at a clip that maintains whatever that ranking is, in theory, there would be no sales rank drops.
Right.
Even though it could be a top 10 product, a top 100 product, right? You don't see it as much. Once you get out of the top 10, you see the sales rank moving around, but you may see it moving around less. So there may be 10, 15, 20 drops, even though it's selling 5 or 10,000 units a month, right? And so I certainly don't mean to guide anyone down the route of avoiding these listings, because if you can still make money at the buy box, then test it.
Test it.
Right?
Test it to see if you can sell it for a profit. If you can, replenish it. If you can't, don't replenish it. The testing decision and the replenishment decision are two different decisions.
I would also add, though, if you're going to do this, you're like, okay, well, I know this one's moving super fast, so I'm just going to go in at the buy box. Why not give yourself an opportunity to sell above the buy box and see what happens, right?
Right. You can always go down.
You can always go down on your price. It may take you a few weeks to move through that cycle to get to the buy box if you want to do that. Or you could just say, well, I'm going to try $1 above, and if it doesn't move, then just drop it right to the buy box and go.
Sure.
Right?
Many different strategies.
Also keep in mind, when you think you're matching the buy box and saying go, okay, that you don't have as much inventory. Your inventory is not saturating the distribution network.
Right.
You may only be in one part of the country where your inventory is because you sent in a few items as a test. And don't be surprised if you don't sell, because Amazon does reward the high volume sellers here, right? And so you may not sell nearly as many, even though the item, theoretically sells, 5 figures a month. You may not see hardly any of that because of all these big sellers who are already there with a boatload of inventory.
So why don't I want to be one of those big sellers that, if that's the case and Amazon rewards volume, then why don't I just send in 100 units?
Great.
500 units.
Here, I think it just goes back to the principles by which you are running your business.
Yes.
And
if that fits with your model, great.
Yeah.
In the replens business, we don't recommend that because you could get stuck with those. Anything can happen in the ASIN. That's why inch deep, mile wide. I'd rather run out that and not get that benefit of the volume than to get stuck. That can cost me actual money. Getting stuck with 100, 500 units could really hurt my business.
This is also, these kinds of listings is where you'll see repricers in heavy use, right?
Right. Exactly.
Down by a penny, up by a penny, down by 2 cents, up by 3 cents, just everyone's sort of jockeying for that it's highly competitive. It's just it's the antithesis of the underserved ASINs.
Well, and I want to add in there too that, I'm saying a number, 100, 500, whatever. We don't ever put that many in one unit because we have a limit of ever, right? But if your business is large enough and you have enough units to balance that, meaning you have thousands and thousands of other ASINs in units, then you can balance 500 on a test and it won't hurt your business. So it's a percentage. So if we're talking to brand new people, we're definitely not going to recommend that. But as you build your business, you can put more and more if you want to, as long as you balance those out, as long as it's not going to hurt you if you get stuck with those.
Well, that was the other side of this conversation that happened, where this person said, well, I can get a large quantity of these. Okay. So, but I want to be able to sell it above the buy box.
Okay.
So
test it.
So my advice to him was test small, right? Test it and see what happens before you go buying a whole bunch of them. And even if you're doing the wholesale model, you typically are doing that. You're testing. Make sure that
the test might look different, but
can prove the results that you expect.
Right. And in this case, I would absolutely say, like you said, don't go where you can buy a whole lot of them until you've tested it. And we've talked about this before. You can test it at a local price, even if you're not going to make any money on it, to see what your price you can get before you go buy a large quantity.
Bulk with a potential cost discount. Oh, that reminds me. There was one other thing I meant to mention about the whole RA model. One of the benefits of that, we talked about you get to pick up the product and inspect and do all that kind of stuff. But gosh, one of the biggest advantages, and Vernon called this out in his podcast, is getting to know the store managers. Yes. Because when you get to know
that can be huge.
The store managers, then you don't have to act like you work there to go in the back room. They'll actually,
you don't have to be brave like us.
will actually take you in the back room and show you what's collecting dust.
Right. And those relationships can be so valuable. And it's not going to happen the first time you meet them.
Yeah.
You have to build a relationship just like everybody else. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Imagine a world where you walk into a Target or a Walmart or a Lowe's or a Home Depot and you go to the store manager and say, hey, what do you have in the back that you're trying to sell out of and I can take off of your hands?
Right.
You can have that world, but you have to build it.
You have to build it. If the first thing that comes to mind is, young people who meet each other and they want to go on a date and then the subject of marriage comes up on the first date. Yeah, that's probably going to make somebody run away. Right. Same thing happens with any relationship. When you're trying to build this relationship, you don't go right for, how much can you save me? You've got to have a win-win relationship for both of you, and you got to build that.
Yep. Hey, I'm going to go before we cut to the end here. Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Hey.
Oh, it says not for resale because this is an author copy. A proof copy, sorry.
So we were guests on the podcast, not hosts.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago, we met with Jim, and we didn't have this yet, but we have it now. And wow, this is so cool.
Okay, so anyway, for the listeners who don't
so this is our very first book. It's called Path: Prospect, Assess, Test, and Harvest, which is basically our approach to coaching in the Replens model. And this book is going live on July 31st.
Yes, it is.
And we would love for you to go get on the pre-launch list, like on the launch list. Because
we've got some extra prizes for people who sign up to be notified as soon as it's available.
That's right. We're doing a live Q&A call where we're going to discuss all the supplemental materials, the bonuses that you get with this. And then we're also going to be drawing for everyone who is on that list. We're going to be drawing for a 30-minute strategy session. And we would love for you to be a part of that. So go to officialolsons.com. All O's in that. No E's in that.
OLSON.
Yes. And .com. Yeah.
Officialolsons.com.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, if you've heard about the pre-flight inspection or bridging the gap or viable, testable, and replenishable ASINs, the 3-step check, the 4-week test, if you've heard those terms, they're in here, all explained. They're all put together so that you can use that strategy yourself.
And this is going to be cost plus shipping. Like there's no profit on this book in the launch phase, right?
Right.
Maybe someday we'll sell it for $50, but I doubt it, So anyway.
It's a 300-page book, though.
Yes.
So the cost is $9.97 on the book itself.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I think it's $9.99.
$9.99?
Yeah, on the book itself.
Just for the book?
That's just our cost. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we would love for you to go get on the list. Gosh, we're doing this pre-launch exercise. We just escaped last weekend to go put the
Yes, we did.
polish on this so that it's done. And we're going to...
So many extras, too. Downloads and, on-demand Olsons.
that's the
you'll
other
have
thing
to
that's
sign up
coming
to
up.
see what that is. Yeah.
On-demand Olsons is going to be so awesome.
It's going to be on the same website.
Yeah. You'll learn all about it if you go sign up at officialolsons.com.
So that means if they ask us a question on the website at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get up and go answer them?
No, it will be my AI agent who will answer based solely on the content
it's gonna
of
know
this book.
Everything in this book.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And it comes in our tone, in our
The way we
funny
would do,
sort of
yeah.
like we think we're hilarious, but our funny, witty approach to and how we approach the podcast and how we approach coaching. It's going to be in our tone. It's not. We've spent a lot of time training this up to be like us.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So we're ready to. Do you have a quote for us?
Oh, I do have a quote. Yes. Good call. I almost forgot the quote. Okay. This one comes to us from Bob Proctor. Okay, the late Bob Proctor. What a highly influential and inspirational guy. But the quote says this: "Faith and fear both demand that you believe in something you cannot see. You choose."
Faith or fear?
Yeah. So I choose faith.
In either case, you can't see it. You're believing in something you can't see. I agree. Faith. I choose faith. We get to choose.
We get to choose. We get to choose our life. We get to design our life. We get to design our business. We get to design everything by what we choose to believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Robin, we talked about a couple of things here: retail arbitrage. We talked about underserved ASINs, and we talked about the more competitive ASINs. At the end of the day, how do we know which of these we should really be selling?
We got to test it.
We got to test it.
Let's go.
All right, let's go test some more
ASINs.
ASINs. Talk to you soon, everyone.
Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. But before I let you go, let's spend a couple minutes with my good friends, Jeff Schick and Leah Modlin from jeffschick.com. Of course, they are resident experts for all things e-commerce, Amazon, and Walmart legal and policy. We don't talk about Walmart as much with you guys, but let's dive in. What all do you guys cover?
So we cover the same, gamut of stuff that we cover for Amazon. So it's account health, IP claims are common on Walmart. They have, instead of brand registry, it's called brand center. Brands can file IPs, counterfeits, trademarks, copyrights, all that stuff. So we've worked on all those sort of cases. And then also the suspensions. So we've worked on a bunch of suspension cases for Walmart sellers now, which range anywhere from, what Walmart terms retail arbitrage, which is what Amazon calls drop shipping, people being accused of drop shipping. We've also had people get accused of, like late cancellations or other, order defect rate type suspensions as well. And we've helped sellers successfully navigate those arenas as well.
So Leah, you deal with both. What's it like dealing with Walmart compared to Amazon from your perspective?
So I trying to think of a good way to put this. It's almost when I see that I'm going to be working on a Walmart suspension, it's I almost have like a slight sigh of relief because usually the situations are a lot more easier to assess. Walmart suspensions very courteously come with a set of questions normally that they'd like the seller to answer. So you can collect the list of questions from the seller. You can answer those questions in a reasonable way create a logical plan of action that is a solution to prevent said problem from happening again. And then you can present that data and documentation evidence to Walmart. And typically, as long as you're presenting something that makes sense to Walmart, which they seem to have a much more logical team over there as well. Usually those suspensions are significantly shorter than we have over on the Amazon side, where we're sometimes in a position where we're finding ways to present the same information differently to win back an account. Whereas with Walmart, usually it's a first time appeal gets accepted. And then occasionally you do have a couple follow-ups, but it's not uncommon to have an issue one day and have an appeal by the next, depending on, the tier of that client's account, and have a suspension be resolved within 24 to 48 hours, which is amazing in compared to the Amazon appeal process.
Yeah, excellent. Because we are seeing more and more Amazon sellers looking for that backup next income stream. And a lot of them are saying, hey, Walmart makes sense. We're seeing some people do really well there. And it's a good chance for us to remind people that sellers, hey, jeffschick.com, they cover Amazon, Walmart, and what else you mentioned? Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify, eBay. We've worked on that handmade company, Etsy. We're worked on cases there as well. So pretty much across the board, anything e-commerce, we've tended to work on something for it.
Excellent. It's a good chance to remind everyone that it's not just Amazon, it's anything e-commerce, policy, and legal. You guys are on retainer for a few dollars a month for my team and many, many great people in our community as well. So thank you for being a great sponsor of the show. And can I have you back next week?
Absolutely. We'll be back.
Talk to you guys then. See you soon.
Thank you.